All right, welcome to the show tonight. To start us off, we have Nancy Cambria from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the Children and Families reporter. But before we talk, Nancy, let's take a look at why early childhood is so important. Big things are happening in the minds of our littlest people. Children develop much of their learning capacity in the first 3 years of life, a critical time when young brains grow to 90% of their adult weight. But how do we truly seize these precious years for learning and development? The most popular answer? Early childhood. And when it comes to child well-being, social, emotional, and educational, the data tells us that a child's environment matters. Studies show that when it's time to start school, children of low socioeconomic status are already behind, scoring 2 years behind on language tests. In fact, signs of this vocabulary gap are already evident before a child even turns 2. A recent regional study only reinforced the benefits of investing in our young people, stating that every dollar invested in early childhood education yields between $7 and $17 of social benefit.
Ready?
Early quality learning programs have also been shown to reduce costs later on programs like special education, remedial instruction, and even incarceration. What about way later? By age 40, children who have high-quality early education are more likely to own a home, be employed, and earn more in their career. So what's not to like? Discussions around early childhood aren't so much about the if, but more about the how. That's because early childhood education can come in many forms, taking place in homes, classrooms, and institutions, formally and informally, in preschools, on playgrounds, and across the country. Okay, so we're back with Nancy. What is the state of early childhood in Missouri, in St. Louis, in the Metro East?
Well, I think that people are really understanding its significance. I think the general public is starting to understand that brain development happens earlier and that it has a significant impact, especially for kids who are poor or maybe in homes where their parents aren't there as much for them. I think the issue for Missouri, though, is trying to translate that into meaningful programs, and also, even at the most earliest ages, figuring out how to really get their child cares monitored and regulated, and so that they're not only safe and healthy, but they also get some elements of quality in them. And that starts as early as infancy, where parents are really looking for child care.
So what are parents telling you? What are their options?
Well, it's a mixed bag. I think nobody really tells a mom at their baby shower, hey, what are your options? What are you going to do? How are you going to pay for child care? How are you going to pay for early childhood education? But that's coming up before they even pay for college, way before. So, these are issues that parents really have to grapple with quickly, and they have a newborn in the household and they want to do the best for them. And trying to figure out what is the best for my child? What care situation will work for our family? What can we afford? And then also, how will this down the line translate into early childhood education? What facilities will I use? So it can be very overwhelming. And the one thing that people really can rely on, or they hope to be able to rely on, our state's ability to kind of look at those first daycares and how they're regulated, and is there enough oversight? Is there enough curriculum? What are the kind of things that are going to help my child develop and feel secure, and to learn those really early social, emotional stages?
So what are legislators, is this a priority to legislators?
Unfortunately, no, I don't think so. I think, unfortunately with Missouri, we're still trying to figure out the bare bones minimums about what we have for our children. And unfortunately, I think in Missouri, we're not really quite there yet beyond basic safety standards. And in Missouri, we still have very loose regulation in terms of how we actually look at child care, what child cares actually are licensed and what are not. We allow a great swath of child cares to be unregulated in churches and schools. We allow home daycares to be unlicensed. And all that means for parents is that the safety net that they may think they have, if they're not educated about this, may not be there for them.
Do some people want it that way? I mean, is this the realm of parents in the minds of some people? They don't want government interfering in this kind of early stage?
I think it's a mixed bag again. I think that in rural areas, it's a little scary to think about if you're relying on home daycares to have this sort of sense of government in your homes telling you, how many kids you can care for. But I think in general, there's a overall feeling, I think, by parents in some areas that this is taken care of for them already, when that may not really be the case.
St. Louis, we know, is the birthplace of parents as teachers.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, the first public kindergarten.
Right.
But now we, in this conversation, we hear about states like Oklahoma, which we're going to hear from later. How is Missouri doing? Where are we behind? Is that a fair thing to even kind of qualify?
Well, I think Oklahoma's taken some great steps early on with some incidents that happened in the news that made them really think about ratios in homes and regulation. And I think Missouri is catching up in that area. I think that there have been some things in the last couple of years that have brought attention to the legislature about safety and health that have brought some incremental changes, but we still have a way to go in that area. I think that some areas of the state maybe haven't put the thought in, particularly in some urban areas, as to civically what it takes to create a system of good early childhood care and then early childhood education. I know Kansas City is doing a fairly decent job on getting their business community involved. That's something that I think St. Louis needs to work on more significantly, and I know that people are trying in that area.
You mentioned rural. Does it break down? Is it significantly different what parents have as options in rural and urban areas, and then I'm guessing across a lot of other lines too when it comes to economics?
Sure, it's very difficult to find licensed care in rural areas, and it is expensive licensed care. There's more reliance on home daycares and those kind of settings. Certainly. Last year there was a legislature from Barry County, which is in the southwestern part of the state, who had actually asked filed a bill to lift some of the regulation off of rural daycares. That didn't go very far. So you see there is a really wide difference of opinions on whether or not we should have these kind of standards in Missouri. But Missouri is also doing a good job this year on following through on some federal guidelines on their daycares that receive subsidy. Federally, they've asked each state to come up with a way to monitor the daycares that receive child care subsidy to help support low-income children get the child care they need so their parents can work. And that in Missouri will equate to having more monitoring in certain daycares that were not licensed. There will be some sense of quality standards that will have to be relayed to parents. This is all still being developed, but this is very exciting. It will affect about 4,000 daycares who previously had been unmonitored. It will not be the whole swath of daycares in Missouri, but it is a significant step.
Nancy?